Welcome to the first Market Moves Similarweb webinar. It's super quick. What's Market Moves? It's a newsletter that exists on the Similarweb LinkedIn profile, written by myself, and it's all about finding those amazing stories from the biggest winners in digital marketing and then turning those into actionable growth strategies that you can use for your brand. So let's begin. And quick meet the speakers. So joining me is a good friend of mine, Rice Tong. I'm very privileged to work with Rice, exceptional marketer and a very good person to work with. So thank you, Rice, for joining me. She's the product marketing manager of AI Search Intelligence. And I am Daryl Mordecai, your host and content marketing manager, and I have a silly hat. Okay, let's begin. So this is what we're going to cover: 4 brands, 4 strategies, and 4 takeaways you can take home with you. Nothing, Best Buy, Monzo, and Revolut. Let's begin. So the first brand is Nothing. Now, Nothing is on the D100. D100 is a Similarweb report that we send out once a year, and we rank all the best winners in digital marketing for the year. So they came out in consumer tech in the UK, position number 4, which is an amazing thing. 53.3% year-over-year change in monthly unique visitors. Now, I'm going to go into the data and figure out from that data what they did, how they did it, and how you can do it yourself. So first step, we see that the 3 spikes that kicked everything off. Look at the data. This is their year. This is their 2025 traffic. They start the year around 3.3 million hits a month, and they finish at the 6 million range. So that's, as we can see, a 53% jump in year-over-year, month-over-month traffic. Now, what's interesting to me, and when I look at these things, I always look for patterns. So the elephant in the room, or what are those 3? The Batman picture over there. 3 spikes in the middle. It starts low. There's the 3 spikes, and then they seem to end on a higher tier. And so I think it's a fair assumption that those 3 spikes had something to do with the fact that they won. So let's look into that and see what actually happens. So the first step in every journey is always, for me anyway, using Similarweb, I go to the channels report. And this is my favorite report. You can see so much from it. So they are winning, it was 62, I think, I can't see it, 62% organic traffic. That's the orange line at the top. And then direct, that's the purple line below it. And the rest of the channels are pretty small. So they're winning on those 2. Now, what's kind of interesting to me is those 3 spikes seem to correlate. Do you notice that there's a spike in organic? There's also a spike in the direct traffic. I see these correlations all the time. I've been using Similarweb for a long time. I've been looking at brands for a long time, and these correlations are so consistent. If there's a jump in, let's say, paid traffic, there's almost always a corresponding jump in organic. So let's put on our thinking caps. What do you think is the reason for these organic leaps? I mean, it's pretty obvious that if you jump in paid, it's not going to affect your SEO. So probably, as far as I'm concerned, and I've got a fair amount of evidence to this, is when channels spike together, it's always a brand win. Now, let me prove that's true. So here we are looking at the organic traffic for Nothing, and we see that they have 88.9% branded traffic. And I want to say that it's actually higher than that, because look at the keywords on the right. So we see 2 clusters: Nothing technology, Nothing phone. So that's the Nothing keywords. Those are clearly branded keywords. But then we're also seeing CMF. Now, CMF is a sub-brand of Nothing. So Similarweb is actually not seeing it as branded. So I think that 88.9 is actually higher. It's probably in the 90s for branded traffic. So clear brand win over there. So what's the key to Nothing's huge brand success? And it all starts with Colpay. Now, I love this guy. He's my, marketing hero at the moment. So he's the CEO of Nothing. I mean, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And what does he say? We were really bored by how the tech industry was. We wanted to do something different. And when you do something different, some will like it, some will hate it. And let's see, here's the demographics. So if you look at them and you compare them to Samsung and Apple, so who are the big winners there? So Samsung is orange, Apple is green. It's very clear that nothing is winning in the 18 to 34 range, towering in the 18 to 24, and 34 also winning there. But if you look at all the other demographics, they're actually trailing. And it seems to trail more and more as the age goes up to 65 plus. So it looks like they've created a blue ocean. They've found a very specific audience that's not the typical tech audience. Okay, and what's the reason for it? It's because they're humanizing tech. Again, they said that tech is boring and the products all look the same. So they kind of take a very human approach, very different approach, not such corporate approach. And it all starts, there's really three beats to this. Okay, beat number one, I started looking at their social media on Similarweb. 83.6% of their social traffic is YouTube. And just look at this, 1.29 million subscribers. That is not a normal brand number. I've looked at a lot of brands. That's not a normal number. That's a creator number. Like, not quite Mr. Beast numbers, but I'm saying creators that do really well in YouTube get numbers in the millions. Brands don't tend to have these high numbers like this. And the reason is because they're treating YouTube as a creator channel. So here's Cole Pay again. We're seeing him again. And look at these amazing thumbnails, typical YouTube clickbait. Here it says embarrassing, and he's pulling that sort of dour expression on the one on the right. It's ugly, and he's reacting. So what does this do? These kind of fun. And by the way, I'm not a consumer tech guy, and I watched a ton of these videos. They were so entertaining and interesting. So when they treat YouTube as entertainment, it gives a face to the brand. So no one wants to get behind a corporation, but we all want to get behind a person. So Coldpay is really the person or the face behind this corporation. And he's kind of the hero in the hero's journey. And we all see this, Carl is our hero. And he's the hero, right? And this gives a face to the brand. He shares his thinking, not just announcements. So, and the amazing thing about this, he's so transparent. He's not afraid to share criticism. So he'll see like influencers, oh, this thing's ugly, or I don't like this. And he's willing to admit, oh, this was a mistake, or to answer them. I've been in digital marketing almost a decade, and I've never seen anything like this. It's amazing. It's beautiful. So put a human being at the front. Okay, that's beat number one. Now let's go to beat number two. This is really cool. I found this digging through Similarweb, and I saw that they've also got nothing.community. So they're nothing.tech, but they also have another domain, nothing.community. This community is big, 21.6 million visits, and people are very, very busy on this community. And what's cool about this community is they get product support there, feature requests. And what does it do when you request a feature and that feature shows up on the actual product? You feel a sense of ownership. So, they and beta testers can, they interact with the community, as with brand, sorry, with employees. So you see, community like this, it creates a sense of ownership. So if Carl is the leader, we're all with Carl, right? In other words, you see if you have a sense of ownership in this brand, this is an awesome brand. Carl's at the center, and you're with Carl at every step. Okay, now these two beats are very, very important for the next step. So let's go and remember I started with three spikes. So we have a super cool tool here. If you see this bar graph here, it's called AI Studio, and it's an LLM-based thing. And I just asked it for these three spikes. First of all, these three spikes are product launches, the phone 3A and 3A Pro. That's the first one. The second one is the CMF, and then the third one is the flagship launch. And I asked the AI Studio to show me the branded versus non-branded split. And as you can see, it's vastly branded focused. So what's happening here is, and by the way, that orange in the middle with the non-branded, that's CMF. So it's probably even more branded than that, as I mentioned before. And so what's happening here is I believe they've built such good brand equity. There's such a beautiful brand that people want to get behind, that when they have these launches, it creates this huge amount of buzz, huge amount of branded traffic, and there's this amazing step in the data. Look at this. They start at the bottom, and then these three spikes, and then it sort of that buzz creates more and more traffic. And look at this. This I just discovered the other day. This is the 2024 traffic, and it's the same cadence. We're seeing the same cadence, which is amazing. So we're seeing that they also did the same thing in 2024, and they had the same exact step pattern. So what they're doing is they've got this strong brand, and then what they're doing is they're creating buzz around their product launches, and year in, year out, it's growing and growing and growing. And that I think is the key here. So those are the three steps. So the three beats, as I mentioned, CEO at the center, community, and then stack your launches. So, Rice, I want to ask you a quick question here. So, what opportunities? We've seen the brand, we've actually spoken a little bit about it. What do you see? What opportunities are you seeing that perhaps they're missing?
First of all, thank you, Daryl, for going through such an interesting story. So, yeah, from my perspective, I wanted to talk about it from an AI search angle. And one thing, and we looked at the data together before the webinar, and we noticed that actually in AI, the presence isn't that huge, and especially in categories like earbuds or headphones or computers, like the categories where they're supposed to be performing quite well in, they're still quite low in visibility. And obviously, the bigger brands like Apple and Samsung are still dominating. So I do see there's an opportunity for Nothing to build more presence there. And one thing that I wanted to tie back to is you mentioned they create a lot of content. Like, for example, they have like a community sort of like domain where they exchange a lot of product feedback, do have like engagement with beta users, etc. So those can be content that can help them surface more in AI. So what are the things they can do is they can start monitoring whether those content actually helps them with their AI visibility. Maybe they can tailor their strategy a little bit to fine tune that content to make it surface in AI a little bit more. So from a research perspective, when people are looking for earbuds, looking for like tech gadgets, etc., Nothing can become more of a significant brand in AI compared to the giants in tech generally.
Nice. Thanks, Rice, for your answer. You ask an AI expert, you get an AI answer. It's 2026, guys. We're all interested in AI. So, and yes, totally, I agree. And I guess the flip side of that point would be maybe they want to keep their edginess and their brand focused edginess. So maybe they don't want to show up for those generic terms. So I could see kind of both sides, but that's a great point, and the data really does show that opportunity. Now, as I promised, they're going to be playbooks. So here's the three-step anti-boring playbook. So put a human at the center. I said be radically transparent. Now, you don't have to be cold pay. You don't have to be as transparent as them. You don't have to be as bold as them. Just the idea here is you don't want to, the whole idea is to put a human at the center and not be a cold corporation. This could be an employee who's charismatic. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be your CEO or whatever. And then turn followers into a community. Again, you might not have the bandwidth to be as big in their community, but you could have a subreddit, a Discord, something that creates ownership. And social media does this too, by the way. And then finally, you have your launch cycles. You can design your launch cycles once that brand equity is so strong. So then we can move through with the launch cycles, and you'll see the buzz, growing if you have such a lovable brand. Okay, so that is story number one. Now we're going to move to story number two. Now, again, as I said, it's 2026, you have to talk about AI. So Best Buy, I'm sure we've heard of him. I saw something very cool here. Best Buy is ranking number 3 for AI in the AI Brand Visibility Index. So Rice, what is the AI Brand Visibility Index?
Yeah, so it's actually an index that we released earlier this year where we looked at the top 10 best performing brands in each of the category that we were tracking. Consumer tech was one of them, and Best Buy was like one of the brands that showed up there. So we were trying to understand like who is leading the AI conversation and like what is basically helping them surface as like one of the visible brands.
And Rice, also, why visibility? What is visibility and why is it so important? I mean, we usually as
Yes.
digital marketers are so obsessed with traffic.
Yeah. Yeah. So visibility is a little bit different from traffic because like at this point, I think a lot of people here would know in AI, you don't necessarily have to click through in an answer for you to get like information. You actually can like ask a question and then you get an answer within the conversation, and you can continue that forever and ever within one single conversation with AI. So a lot of the brands were very fixated on traffic because that was like the metric that everyone measures on when it comes to like whether people know about their brand or engaging with their brand. But actually now you can like you can go into AI, you ask a question, you see an answer, and the brand can be there having an influence without you clicking on anything. So visibility is a way for us to understand as marketers the influence that we have on users now without like clicks happening basically. So AI visibility is like the leading metric that we now look at when it comes to your performance in AI conversations.
Amazing. Thank you. And also, probably what happens is when you get those brand recommendations, they go to Google, they Google the brand. And we have a report about this, by the way. Okay. So they came in position 3, and I want to show you how you can do this too. Now, this might take a little bit of time because, well, but these are the basics. So first up, when I was looking here, we're looking at the AI Visibility Momentum Report, and there's something that just you can't miss it, right? You look at a report like this, data like this. So on the left, we have the growing, the accelerating brands. On the right, we have the flat and declining. And that huge spike, right? It's B&H and Best Buy, massive spike in visibility in November. And then on the right, we have HP had a smaller spike also, in November. So what happens when, you have a spike at the exact same moment? So obviously, no one's like optimizing their pages, at the exact same moment. It's probably seasonal. So I thought, what seasonal event is in November in consumer tech, So this is not a trick question. Obviously, it's Black Friday, right? So the question is, every brand, not every, but very often we have seasonal trends in you might have seasonal trends in your niche. So the question is, how can you show up for seasonal trends in your niche? And what I'm going to follow, what's going to follow is not just seasonal trends. You'll also this is how you can increase your brand mentions. So how does an AI platform decide what to recommend? Now, this is going to be quick, but I've done a lot of research into this. So it all starts with this funny graph on the left. So if you have a lot of data, right, loads and loads of data, it could be good, it could be bad. A lot of data that's not structured is horrible because you can't find anything, right? You have this filing cabinet just full of stuff and you can't find anything. So what AI does is it clusters the trillions of data points probably that it has into topics. So here you have these topical clusters on the left. You have a blue one, a green one, a yellow one. Each one would represent a different topic. So let's say, you're into dog training. You'd want to, there'd be like a whole cluster of content around dog training. And the whole trick, or the main trick to AEO or GEO, whatever you want to call it, is to educate the AI platforms that you dominate in that topic. Okay. And the way you do that, the strongest lever you can pull is to show up all over the internet and in other resources for your topic, and focus obviously on your topic. And there's nuance to this, but showing up all over the internet is really the trick to doing that. And then it'll get a statistical picture and it'll say, your brand entity is around dog training, or as what's happening with Best Buy, it's around, well, let's see. It's around tech deals, right? So I did a quick, here's a little graph here showing on the left is the brand entity Best Buy, and they are really a consumer tech deals website, right? And on the right, we're seeing Black Friday. That's really a subtopic within deals because AI is not just looking at topics, but also if you zoom into those topics, it's also showing subtopics. Everything is structured in a very clear way for the AI so it could find that information. So I want to suggest, and I'm going to prove to you, that Best Buy own the consumer tech deals, and we'll do that by looking at, and then also Black Friday. Now, the way I'll do that is I'm going to split it into 2 timeframes. The first time frame is from January to September, because up until then, there's not that much Black Friday traffic. So I want to show that they own this topic right up until September. And then from September to November, I want to say that now they're going to start to own the Black Friday topic. So let me show it to you. Now, it's all about your digital footprints. So on the left here, we're seeing the referral traffic, blanking here, the referral traffic. Now, obviously, as Rice mentioned, we're not so interested in traffic, but I'm using the Similarweb referral traffic because if a site is sending traffic to Best Buy, it must be that they mention Best Buy. There has to be a mention there, otherwise who's clicking, right? So they obviously, and these are very contextual. It sends about 15.88 million total visits and Slick Deals, Tom's Guide, Beyond Cheap. So these are all consumer tech focused websites. So if you looked into that cluster of consumer tech deals, these would all be very prominent there, and they're all referring back to Best Buy. And if you look on the right here, I looked at keywords. Now, for the SEOs in the house, I'm not saying that SEO and AI are the same, but they're definitely related cousins. They're showing up for laptop deals, Best Buy deals, tons of them, right? And what you see, the biggest trafficked website page is their homepage. And what's in number two? Top deals. So you see that their digital footprint from January to September is all about tech deals, and they are showing up in a big, big way all over the internet. Okay, let's move on to September to November, right? So if you look at the top graph on the left, you see that this is only referral traffic graph, and you see that massive spike. That's a huge spike in traffic, referral traffic going to Best Buy. And I filtered for the ones below that to show you, the ones that had the biggest change. So we're seeing like 5,000% change in traffic change there. And we see that they are getting a lot of referral traffic from blackfriday.com. So you see that they are, and all that referral traffic has to be Black Friday traffic, because why all of a sudden that spike around November? So I filtered for Black Friday, sorry, for change, the biggest change in traffic to keyword traffic to Best Buy, 5,000% jump. And they're all Black Friday, excepting for two, I think there, which are Cyber Monday. So it's very clear that when it comes to their digital footprint, they own tech deals, they properly own it. And when it comes to Black Friday, when Black Friday, that interest is ramping up, they own that too. And that's probably the trick to their massive spike. So here's your playbook, the 3-step own your niche playbook. So step one, identify your seasonal moment. As I said, just about every niche, maybe not every niche, but niches have that seasonal moment, so you have to identify that. Secondly, you have to figure out your topical hierarchy. And so we saw Best Buy, it was deals and Best Buy. And I suggest using AI for this because the data in AI is set up in that way. It's very much AI understands topics, subtopics. That's exactly how the AI works. Secondly, show up everywhere for that topic. So publisher roundups, digital PR, creator content, just show up all over, make it statistical, make it big, and AI will start to notice you. And then I added the third one because I actually started out in SEO on your on page. Now, I don't have any proof to this, but I think if you're going to hedge your bets, your site architecture and your site content should also tell that story. Now, Rice, quick question for you. Step two, as I said, show up everywhere. What's the best way to do this?
Yeah, so in AI, you want to know where AI stores that information. And so therefore, using citation analysis tools can help you understand where AI gets that information and how the influence of those websites or those pages change over time. So like in Similarweb, we also have a citation analysis tool within AI Search Intelligence. So that's like one way that you can do it. And you can like track how citation changes, which websites have the most influence, and therefore, for the website, you can make sure that you are actually being present in the right places for AI to draw those information.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rice. And moving on to story number three. Now, story number three and story number four is actually going to go together. Okay, and it's going to look a little similar to the nothing story, but you'll see as it develops. Okay, I'm going to go through this quite quickly. So everybody in the UK knows Monzo. They're a UK digital bank. They on a mobile app. Traffic 50 million. It's really big in the UK, and this was my impression. When I was growing up, banking was cold and corporate, and it's Oliver Twist, right? And then there was Monzo, right? So they're banking that works for people and not the other way around. And there here's his coral card, Oliver Twist. Now I chose Oliver Twist for a reason, and we'll see in a minute. Okay, so here we're seeing the year-over-year traffic growth, 44%. This is a consistent growth, even when times were bad, their traffic is consistently growing. 92% branded traffic. So this is clearly a strong brand. I mean, it's obvious. 42% direct, 33 organic search. Very kind of similar to nothing. And so, what's the secret to their brand strength? So, I did a little bit of a look through their social media just to see the how that brand philosophy is coming out in their digital products and things in their digital media. And 51% LinkedIn. It makes a lot of sense because they do a lot of business stuff. So the top post over there is a joke, and people are loving this joke. Literally 903 reactions, 21 comments, and below it, which is totally blew me away, was a big text-heavy post, and it's got 121 likes and interactions, which it's a product one. Okay, so a lot of personal. This is a very human bank, focused on humanity, on fun. And then second beat, which is very similar to nothing, is their Reddit, and then YouTube on the right. And this is beautiful, their YouTube. It's also kind of creator style, not as big as nothing, but these screenshots I took. I'm showing these screenshots because this video is genius. It's someone talking about relationship growth in the context of banking. People, you get together with your partner, or whatever, and talking about money feels a bit icky, so she's giving advice that there. Okay. And here's the twist. As I said, we're bringing Oliver Twist in here. So now for the twist. In walks Revolut. Now, Revolut has been around probably around the same amount of time as Monzo, but they were never really direct competitors. Revolut was all more about travel. Monzo was more about like your personal banking, but Revolut has actually joined and have become a direct competitor. They've got their banking license in the UK now. And look at this, they're on the D100. They made position 7, 72% year over year monthly change. So they're really going for it. Okay, they're doing exceptionally well. And because of this, everyone's favorite game show, Battle of the Brands, right? So on the left, we have Monzo, 50 million hits. On the right, we have Revolut, 27. So they are much smaller. They're getting a lot less traffic than Monzo. They're on the back foot, and they have to make up for that. 93% branded searches for Monzo, 64 for Revolut. So you see, they don't have the same brand equity, the same brand strength. And that is coming out in their page. You see that Monzo is a very cost-efficient brand because as your brand grows and becomes more powerful, your ad spend can drop because the people are literally Googling you. So they're a strong brand. But Revolut has got a much higher spend because they have to make up for their lower brand equity. And so I decided to look at their keywords. Now, have a look at this, okay? So I filtered for change. You see 5,000%, so these are like from in 2025 when they started to really go for it. And the story is just so clear here. They're going for HSBC Business, Barclays, HSBC, Lloyd's, and at the bottom, Monzo, right? So here they are. Here, I also looked at their paid keywords. They're really going for Monzo here, you could see. And Rice, question for you. Well, if you ever done PPC, I'm sure there's a lot of PPC people in the audience. If you are going for a rival brand, your relevance score is actually going to be low because let's say they're showing up with a landing page relevance. Well, it's really Monzo, not it's really Revolut and not Monzo. So why would a brand do this? And what's the gain here?
Yeah, so yeah, very simple because if someone is typing in a branded keyword, it's very likely those people have conducted research already somewhere. and they probably have a very high intent of purchasing something, or in this case, it would be, for example, opening an account. So for Revolut, for example, it's their strategy is to intercept that traffic and to capture the high intent like traffic coming to Monzo. But obviously, when they show up on a page where people are looking to open a business account or a bank account, it's going to sort of like help them hijack that presence a little bit, and therefore, in this sense, it's like hijacking the traffic and their presence, and capturing a part of that conversion essentially.
Nice. And here we're seeing an ad. So what's interesting here is these are all Monzo keywords, as you can see, and that's their ad. Open online account in minutes. Now, I don't know. Probably they're trying to appeal in their copy, their ad copy, to get more clicks and saying, pointing out their benefits here. So it's easy for you, open your account online, fast setup, and as Rice said, it's high intent traffic, so they want to filter off a little bit of that lovely branded traffic. So that brings us to this is the Similarweb Monitor and Protect tool. And the reason we have this tool, and this is super important to understand, is that when brands are going after your branded traffic in paid, it's often a blind spot. So look at this. Revolut is getting 7K. This is March to April 2025. They actually, in paid, they're getting 7,000 clicks, while Monzo's only getting 5. So, and it's probably because of the blind spot. I mean, you can't Google every single keyword to see if there's a rival brand going after your keywords. So that's what this is all about. And I looked at the data, more present data, and we noticed that they've kind of equaled out. So now they're both getting about 6K. So this is something that you have to keep an eye out for. And that brings us to our final playbook, and that is start out with this is the three-step brand drawbridge playbook. Now, the drawbridge is that you build your moat and then you leave the drawbridge down. So don't do that. So how you do that is obviously build your brand moat. We saw that Monzo is spectacular. They did a fantastic job of that. It's in fact, I think they even defined the category of banking. They've changed the way banks, when I was looking into it, I think they've actually changed the way banks have become so much more human. But then point two is monitor your branded keywords, look for who's bidding on your branded name, how many clicks they're capturing, what the share is, and then defend it aggressively, right? So you may have to put a bit of money in here, but the good news is that your relevance score is going to be much higher than your competitors. So it's fairly easy to bat them away. I know I've had experience in this. So that is that. And that's the content we have. That's the market moves. And thank you for joining. Now, before you run, Rice, were there any questions in the Q&A? Was there any questions
Yeah.
there?
So first of all, will we have a recording for this webinar? Yes, we'll follow up with an email with a recording. So if you
Yes.
missed anything, feel free to go back and look at the recording. Another question came up in the first story that you shared. Does the number of visits include both mobile and fixed networks, or only the fixed network? So I
Are you
think
talking
this
about?
I think this is asking mobile and desktop, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
As far as I'm aware, Similarweb puts mobile and desktop together. This is the way and it kind of averages out. So that is the mobile. So it's pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Um,
We also have a third question. What AI citation tracking tool do you recommend? What is a good brand mention share according to you on AI? So I'll answer the second question first. First of all, it's very hard to have a very fixed, like good percentage that we can like share across everything, because in different categories, the competition is different. Like for example, if you were in like consumer tech, maybe there's like a lot more competitors than, for example, if you were in like a certain B2B industry. So what we generally suggest is you have to look at your competitors' performance. Like, for example, you can look at, let's say, if you were like a sportswear brand, you might want to look at how Nike is doing, because they would be like a benchmark for you to look at. Oh, they are doing well. or like you can also look at competitors that you're competing with and look at how they're performing. So that would be a good sort of benchmark and reference that you can look at. Obviously, citation tracking tool that we recommend, like Similarweb has a really good citation tracking tool. So you might want to check that out. And I think the way that you evaluate a tool is obviously whether it's built on real data and real user behavior, which Similarweb is. So that will give you an actual referenceable like data points that you can really build your strategy on. Next question, how do I know which keywords are effective for my brand, and also I want to rank on AI searches. How could that occur? Daryl, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so that was what the content was about. So as I said, it's about, the AI searches question. It's all about introducing your brand in your category to the AI. And as I mentioned in the content above, so there's a lot of nuance to this. Like, don't dilute your brand. Like if you like about dog training, don't also be about fashion. Show up for your category. Make sure that if you are, selling something, you should show up more for, most transactional things like that. So it's all about creating a footprint all around the web, and that works statistically. Yeah. And the more statistical you can be, the bigger the number, the more likely AI will get to know who you are, what you do, and it will start to recommend you. It does take time though, because you have to make it into the training data, but you will show up. You will show up when it does retrieval, when it starts to find brands. A lot to say on this topic.
Yeah.
Okay. Should
The
we do
next,
one last question and
yes,
we'll
sure.
wrap up?
I'll let you choose one.
I can't
We've
see
got
the
a few.
question, so I'm going to
Oh,
leave it to
okay,
you.
cool. So, okay, let me have a look. Oh, okay, okay. Actually, this one's quite cool. So, my main question is how to create a relevance that can appear in AI searches, which are more like query-based research compared to keyword-focused search engines.
So I'm going to say the same as above. In other words, queries are, I assume you mean by in AI searches, yes, AI conversations. So again, you want that AI to recognize who you are, what you do. And so it's all about showing up, creating a large footprint of a digital footprint. And so your strongest lever will be, showing up in listicles and all those kinds of things. But you can also work on your on-page content. You can build out a solid amount of on-page content. Just keep it topical within your topic, and the more you can do that, the more AI will begin to get to know who you are, and it starts to recommend you. And that's just magic when that happens. So I want to say a big thank you to Rice. Thank you for bringing your expertise. It was absolutely fantastic. And thank you everyone for joining. As I said, we will, as Rice mentioned, we will have a replay. I'll send that to you on email. And please subscribe to the newsletter, the Market News newsletter. We're almost at 12K subscribers, so it would mean the world to me if we could hit that number. That will come in the email, and that's it for us. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Daryl.